Hospitality Lead and Principal at Gensler, Tom Ito, and the Director of Customer Experience at citizenM, Casper Overbeek, and the Chief Brand Officer, NeueHouse and Fotografiska, John Goss, in conversation with Skift hospitality reporter, Cameron Sperance.
Hey everybody, I'm Cameron Sperance and I cover the hotel industry here at Skift. I'm joined today by an expert panel spanning the travel orbit of design, technology, culture, community, membership, and experience. All major themes we cover in general, but especially in the last year. So today we're going to look to the future of hospitality and what opportunities lie ahead. Tom Gensler's involved in quite a bit. I know y'all are behind the design of the new citizenM hotel, the upcoming Otari hotel. I'd like to start with you and then open it up to the rest of what has the pandemic revealed most in terms of your ability to create new innovation and change?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cameron, since we're all going through it now, all exploring it. I think there is a certain emphasis on the whole health and wellness piece of kind of what's going on in the industry that has influenced design. But I think more importantly, it's about how lifestyle has changed as a result of the pandemic, and that people are going to hotels for, to be more engaged and be connected with people. We're finding that is probably a really key driver in terms of the use of hotels. And given that, I think it really re-emphasized the importance of being connected. Also about being personal, getting more personal. Brands are being more connected with the personalization of space and the importance of really tailoring to a guest's really needs, and how that really is analogous with the brand. And getting that culture of the brand and the guest experience together is what I think is really driving kind of the future of what's happened post pandemic, as an example. And we looked at connected spaces, the whole notion of the convergence between digital and physical together. I think that's a big one because everybody's so connected now. How do we take that notion of being hybrid environments, of taking technology and embracing that to really enhance the guest experience in a way to really make the guest journey a lot more positive, more friendly, more welcoming, as opposed to taking transactional actions, but really converting them to really making more personal experience for the guests.
Absolutely. Casper, what about you? What are you seeing at citizenM on the innovation and change front, especially since everything that's happened?
Yeah, hi, great to being here. What we see at citizenM is actually, we were all overwhelmed by everything that happened to us due to COVID. We realized that we quickly needed to respond. First, being able to secure safety, then be able to secure being alive and staying alive and get through this. And immediately we looked at how do we want to engage with our guests in COVID, and accidentally lots of what we wanted to do and what we needed to do was already there. So we were already a tech savvy hotel, but we fast-tracked several initiatives like our app that allows a fully contactless service, from check-in to F&B ordering, to checkout, to controlling your room, controlling the curtains, the media. So that all was very spontaneously a right fit. And next to that, I think it's really important that we wanted to keep this human factor alive in our hotels, and also merging it with the design, because what we quickly discovered is, like, after the initial, alarm was over for guests that were really concerned about their well-being, very quickly it changed again in like, okay, hey, we want to have a place where we want to feel at home, where we feel connected to our environment, where we are welcomed by attentive staff, and all these things really didn't change. So in the end, we believe that Corona served us as an opportunity to have like a pandemic-proof hotel and improve our customer experience at the same time.
Absolutely, and I want to get to a lot of that a little later in the conversation. But John, I want to get to you. I mean, what has changed the most, or what's kind of glaringly shifted at NeueHouse in light of the pandemic on the design front?
Yeah, nice to meet you all. It's been interesting because I think in many ways the actual original vision for NeueHouse, in terms of being a gathering, work, shared space for community to sort of collaborate and be in a space that they can all share, that sort of vision has really been validated I think what we've tried to do is then embrace the sort of social side of things, where actually people see as much value in the place they work as the people they can meet, the relationships they can build both professionally and personally. So building more F&B and social spaces into our ecosystem has been a big thing, as well as the expansion we're about to embark on in some of our new properties, and tweaking design to sort of really get that flow between day to night, work and social has been really crucial. And then I suppose the other biggest change is I'm sitting in a restaurant called Veronica in New York, which is within the building of Fotografiska, which is a brand we brought into our ecosystem at the beginning of COVID through some of the changes that happened to us. So we now have NeuHouse and Fotografiska, and for those who don't know it, it's a photography museum which started in Sweden, and we have this one in New York, and we're expanding, which we announced at Basel last week. So I'm now sitting in a Roman and Williams designed restaurant we inherited. So we've innovated in a really sort of interesting, serendipitous way, and now thinking about a workspace and a social space and a museum, we kind of have this opportunity to think about how cultural experiences and shared experiences really influence where you work, where you socialize, where you gather, who you connect with. And it's been a fascinating, interesting journey, and design is always at the core of it, and thinking about how those spaces, to Tom's point before, are connected, but also allow you to have private, individual moments where you want to meet with other people, and it's really sort of what I call a multi-hyphenate space for multi-hyphenate creatives. So yeah.
Wonderful. Tom, I want to come back to you. I mean, can you elaborate a little bit about, like, what is the creative process like, going from a lot of the themes and shifts you have mentioned to bringing that to life in the hospitality space?
Yeah, well, we, I think John really emphasized kind of what it means to be engaged in its local community, and understanding the importance of kind of what the design that we represent is going to impart on its guests. So I think part of our design process is to do a couple of things, is to understand the context of what it is and what that offering has in relationship to brand, understanding the guest. And I think, Casper, you talk about personas. We also want to understand the users, and there's different users and the different purposes of how one will use a hotel, whether it's business or whether it's leisure or whether it's social, whatever. We use that as a driver, as part of our design process, to really make sure that we're engaging our design that reflects the needs of the guests. So we marry that both. We also like to put together a narrative of our story, so that it wraps around a vision, a common vision of that design, that marries around a common goal that makes something very special and unique to the place and to its guests. So we engage that in the process as well. And this is all kind of on the design side. And then, of course, we have to integrate that all with the whole technology piece of it and the operations piece of it. We can never forget about that, because it's about a both. And all that really reflects on how a hotel serves its guests. So it's about the front of the house, but more equally and even more important is the back of house and how we service. So we take that all together to create this operational, construct to really create the best guest experience that we can, to drive repeat visits, and more importantly, to drive a unique experience for each hotel guest.
Wonderful. And before we move on, I believe we have some visuals, Tom, that you had brought along to show for our audience.
I'll do that. The first one is a first slide on our digital, kind of how we look at connected spaces, in how we merge people, place, and technology together. And at the heart of that is what we call our digital experience. So we want our places, and I think this is what's created the new value for hotels, which is combination of use of intelligence, being immersive, and being connected. And that's kind of some of the basis drivers that we're moving forward. And a great example of that is what we're doing right now with Atari Hotels, which is the next slide, which we're creating a new brand. When we talk about differentiation, we're kind of looking for what's the next model of an experience. So we're seeing the emergence of actually new brands. This one happens to be leveraging on the nostalgia of Atari, but really taking it to the future, and really putting digital at its forefront by actually engaging it on the facade. You can actually have a playboard on the facade that we're doing. You can engage in the whole e-gaming thing. And we're also doing something really fun, where we are having you create your own avatar, which could be your way to interact with people while you're in the space. So total ultimate idea of merging technology with physical and experience together. You can see there, you can create your own avatar, and this will be the way you're going to be communicating. So it's kind of fun, something new and different. So this is something that we're trying to drive through innovation to create something new and different, and also to appeal to a wide variety of different personas, whether they're gamers or they're nostalgic guys, or whether you're a family that want to experience something new, as an example.
And Tom, as an aside, I mean, I feel like you're going to have a lot of people wanting to live out their Tron fantasy looking at that rendering.
Exactly, right. A lot of gamers in the world, right now.
I mean, we're an impatient bunch here at Skift, so how long do we have to wait for the Atari Hotel to open?
Well, we're in the design space right now, and we're excited to do. It'll be a few years. These things, creating something new doesn't happen overnight. So,
absolutely. Casper, when I come to you, I mean, I feel like a lot of what Tom said translates obviously to citizenM, and something a lot of people are talking about now is sort of the hotel lobby and what that means. I know it's obviously fostering shelter, personal interaction, culture is a big part of that, but so is the design of the space. But also we're coming out of a pandemic, and I feel like a lot of people sort of view it as dead space. So how does design change that, and what changes are underway at citizenM for how you feel the lobby have already been made?
Well, it's a good question. So you fell away a little bit, but I believe the question is like, how did pandemic affect the way we look at design and also the way tech influences? Because that's really my domain. Well, actually, I really love the picture that Tom just showed about how place, tech, and people are connecting, because that's what we value as well. It always starts at the guest journey, and well, as I said at the beginning, for us the material needs of the traveler that is typically our guest did not really change. It merely was accelerated by the need for convenience, the need for a human touch, the need for a sense of belonging. And these living rooms that we have, so here you see one of them is actually a display of that. So people are invited to do whatever they want. They can walk around on their socks if they want. They can work, they can have a drink, they can have a bite, they can have a coffee, and really interact. And since we are really targeting this specific contemporary business traveler, there's also a lot of community building going on, or engagement going on, without us actively promoting it. The whole digital role is relatively new to it, but also there we first are looking at what are the consumer needs. So if a consumer or a customer or a guest, when he becomes a guest, wants to have easy access to our check-in process, or wants to order a drink via our app, we are allowing it. But if he's not wanting to do it because he just wants to have an attentive person saying hello to him, we also want to accommodate that. And that whole logic between tech, place, and people is becoming more and more apparent. So it also leads to that, for instance, I'm involved in the digital side, but I have a lot of interaction with my design and technical services partner that is in charge of what the living room is looking like. Because in the end, this whole behavior of consumers in general, and also hotel guests, it is more and more hybrid of an online and an offline nature. And recognizing that is one of the key elements for us to take along and while moving forward. One example of it is that, for instance, we have kiosk check-in. So we don't have check-in desk, but we have a kiosk where you check in. We are now looking at like, what would it be if we would have no kiosks? What is then a way that we can check in, make check-in very easy, either via app, do it remotely from anywhere you want. Suppose that would work. What would then be the new arrivals experience look like? How can we still create this welcoming environment of a home away from home, of your best friend's place, as we like to refer to it ourselves? So these are challenges where we see that the design and the tech are really getting together into the next steps of our rollout strategy.
With something like that, does the lobby get smaller, or do you just repurpose that space for something else entirely?
Yeah, no, well, the question I get most is whether we feel that we can be more efficient and reduce staff. And my answer to that question is always no, because we are already very efficient in the way we operate our space with 5 people running a total shift. And we really see digital as a mean to create more efficiency, and by that, actually allowing more time for human interaction. And actually, we say the use of our space exactly the same. Our living room is in the end an answer to our relatively small rooms, where we want to put good furniture or vitra. We want to have nice art on the wall that's carefully selected by our founder himself. So yeah, that is really part of the citizenM experience. So in anywhere in the foreseeable future, we don't see that we will make any sacrifice there. It's a vital part of our brand and who we are.
Great. John, I'm going to get to you, but I believe you brought a video for us to share. So do you want to start with that before we move on to you?
Sure, roll the tape. Yeah, so that's a little promo brand video we produced a couple of weeks ago that we just rolled out this week, actually. So the timing is good. So we've just introduced a new tier of membership at NeueHouse. So I won't use this as a promotional tool to talk about it, but I think it's I think the video is sort of emblematic of the way we try to use content to showcase the sort of diversity of the different spaces we have and how we use them. And then talking about Salon as a specific product we kind of built in a response to the way we think the shifts are around the way people will work and socialize and gather and connect within beautiful architecturally designed buildings and comfortable residential environments, but where they can also have a really interesting cultural experience. So, you know, that whole product and that launch is really tied around the data we've been tracking on the way people interact with our space now in a way that's slightly different to the way they used to before. And you saw a reference to 8 days a month. We typically see now, we actually got more people now in our New York space than we had before, but they're using it in slightly different ways. We see people staying at home on a Monday morning and heading upstate on a Friday afternoon, but this kind of Tuesday to Thursday concentration of people and attending events and being social and entertaining and all those sorts of things is kind of how we've pivoted a little bit in terms of the spaces and the products and how we deliver that. And then obviously Fotografiska is actually a public facing museum, so it's a slightly different interaction with the guest. But our museum in Stockholm is now doing bigger numbers than it was doing pre-COVID. So showing this sort of like this intense desire to tap into our curiosity and our desire for cultural experiences and sharing those moments, but also being able to have a drink and have a meeting and have time around art and time around those sort of gathering moments around culture. So as I said before, it's kind of, you know, it's validating because this was the original vision for the museum and the original vision for NeueHouse. Now we're just kind of tweaking and innovating how we do things. And then, you know, you've both talked about technology. I'd say we're less of a technology enabled brand experience than maybe some of the things you guys have been describing, but at the same time, you know, we want the technology to be frictionless and seamless and enable just an easy, frictionless experience. And that's you know, we see it more like an Apple type experience where the software is all in the background and you don't really see it, and then the physical experience is very analog and tactile in nature. So
I was going to say, I mean, like, how in removing that friction, I mean, how does technology lead for, I guess, enhanced personalization? I guess, like, how do you embrace personalization without just kind of being seen as sort of a sterile tech platform?
Yeah, I mean, there's things that you have to do from a functional perspective for an experience like NeueHouse, which is checking in a seamless way, so you're not wasting time signing in at a front desk. There's booking conference rooms, there's booking, your spaces in the restaurant, there's booking events you want to attend, which is all living in the app we built in March, April of last year. And then there's the sort of connective directory which we've built, which allows you to personally connect with people you either want to meet or people you see as valuable to your business life. So you might see a graphic designer or a video editor or a creative director or a photographer on the site. And I think then as we sort of embrace AI and sort of develop the app, we'll be able to then sort of personalize some of those experiences specifically to passion points and things members care about. Because you talked about personas before, we have multiple personas in our community, and some people are here purely for a social and cultural programming experience, and some people are here just to work, and some people are here, like I said before, for that sort of multi-hyphenate experience. So it takes time to build that sort of AI and that personalization, but it's starting to gather as we generate more data on what the trends are and what people are asking for. And we're a very physical brand, right? So we're interacting, unlike a hotel with a transient customer. We have the same members coming back to their third home space. So we get to have a very analog one-to-one human experience where we know what members are asking for and what types of programming they want and what things they want to see in terms of the artwork or the food and the beverage and some of the social programming. So we really try to kind of over-index on that sort of what I call the analog experience and let the tech just sit there and allow us to sort of optimize the experience and personalize where we can.
How do you, I mean, in this kind of future of work where it seems like there's a blended office and hospitality function, I mean, how does NeueHouse kind of foster that community while still embracing kind of the arts and culture that are obviously such a draw to the brand?
I think it's actually the arts and culture piece, which actually is what brings people together. So I think if you build spaces and environments that appeal to a certain type of persona, a culturally curious, creative, entrepreneurial, time-sensitive consumer, if you can give them cultural experiences around the arts and entertainment and music and food and design, that's actually the sort of connective tissue for when you bring people together. So we very much talk about the sort of day to night user journey. And we know that people are busy during the day. They want to have their meetings. They want to have private spaces to work. They want to have places to co-create. They want to do podcasts. They want to be on Zooms. And then there comes a point where there's this transition into the sort of nighttime where you get this more sort of flow of people coming down for a drink and getting ready to attend an event or a talk or a performance. So it's actually the arts and culture piece, which actually we think is our connective tissue that allows us to sort of create those gathering moments that people want to share and bring their friends and their colleagues and their peers into.
Tom and Casper, I want to bring you into this as well, because I mean, obviously the hospitality space has done a lot, I feel like, in making kind of enhanced outreach to sort of the lifestyle component of a hotel. If everyone's trying to kind of capitalize on that push, how do you sort of make a distinct brand identity? Tom, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I think it does go back to this notion of personalization and how a brand really responds to the guest's preferences. So I think and every guest will be able to experience a brand separately depending on their personal, so it really becomes personal to them. But I also have to say, and I love what you're doing, John, because I think that's the key to it, is how do you embrace the local community and its culture and put that into the hotel, which certainly differentiates one from another. There's going to be a hotel should not look the same or be the same or feel the same in one city or one country from another. And I think just embracing that locality in terms of its culture, its influence, and its offering is kind of what's going to differentiate one from the other. But then again, it goes back to this personal experience and how you can drive a different experience for every guest based on their preferences, their likes, and what they want. And I think some of the brands will manifest that through their brand strategy. So I think that will engender loyalty with the guests if they know that their needs are being taken care of. and it's unique to them. And every guest will have a different viewpoint on that, as we all have different ways that we want, whether, like you said, John, whether they're going to do socialize or they're going to work, and how can we embrace that. And we do that on the design side. That's kind of what one of our drivers that we try to do, and that's how we try to create one space different than the other. But you're right, on the overarching thing, we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for safety, we're looking for health, we're looking for entertainment, we're looking for social interaction. But how that gets manifested should be different in every hotel that you go to.
Yeah, Casper, I was going to ask, I mean, for citizenM, what's sort of your approach? And I mean, how do you keep the product fresh so people are using your public spaces, things like that?
Actually, I think it's really nice what John and Tom are saying. I think when I listen to John, I hear that it's a very distinct choice on what you want to be for whom. And I think that is also a challenge, or something that we want. So it starts by creating a good focus on what's your audience and what is your audience needs. I also fully agree with the role of digital in it, that is just servicing. It's become a hygiene or a commodity for, I think, most of us. And then when you look at it, there's nothing that is really special anymore on that. But what is special is a human touch that you feel like, hey, I actually feel at home, or that you say, hey, I actually feel part of a community. Hey, I actually feel that this hotel understands my needs. And in that sense, we are also looking at how we can accommodate that. So it starts by making very clear choices in who our target audience is. So who are we doing it for? Then we look at what are the different needs, because what we see happening is that, for instance, things like leisure and all these new trends, they're coming a little bit more. So it means that if you want to use our hotel for work, but then also want to visit a museum, or you go to an event, your needs changes with it. To make yourself relevant on that is something that we are looking into. We believe that we have a good starting point by the way we have designed our hotels and the friendliness that we are, but we also see that the needs of our guests are changing. And I think that one of the other elements that we're trying to include in our concept is much more eye for local. But if you are, for instance, we just opened up San Francisco and Los Angeles hotels. There you see that we have some local flavors to it. But then also we see with our loyal customer base that comes back over and over again, they are also looking for some sort of consistency and predictability. So these kind of elements, how you combine them, I think that is, there are lots of choices that you make. And by these choices, the outcome of the choices makes us, unique. I think unique in a way that our brand can be recognized and what it is for.
Yeah. I wanted to chime in a little bit on that, Casper, and you, John, about kind of embracing local. And what we found that as a result of the pandemic, that hotels are more than just a place to sleep for transient customers. It's becoming more of a place for communities to really be the place to be. So we're finding that whole local catchment of people are utilizing hotels in a much more localized way, whether it be a place to meet, even to a place to work. They will go to a hotel to work, or to NeuHouse, for example, but they will use that as their alternate workplace. And that notion of blending that business to a hotel is also, I think, what we found. But just the fact that the whole nature of the guest profile is a lot more local as opposed to solely destination driven. And we certainly noticed that because of local travel, really spurred by people wanting to go to local destinations to travel, and that kind of, actually, made it a little more prevalent about the community engagement and the role hotels play in its community. And they go there for drinks, they eat. So it's not just a matter of people and the guests going to stay there, but it's also a place for the locals to really hang out and to be as well. So,
or sorry, John, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to make a very small comment. I couldn't agree more with what Tom and Casper are saying, because to the point before, we know from our members and being very close to them that actually time has become such a precious commodity to people, because Zoom has kind of actually accelerated how much noise we have to deal with. And I think it makes people more conscious about the decisions they're making, and they need things that are they need their lives curated in a more in an easier way, right? So I think you would have seen maybe in the video we had design hotels at the bottom of the list of amenities for NeueHouse. We made a very conscious decision with design hotels to plug them into our benefits program, because we knew, particularly to that local point that Tom was making before, that we have 2 destinations, for example, in LA. We have one in Hollywood and one in Bradbury, but we know that people need to go on the west side where we are building a space, but it's not going to open for another 9 months. So we partner with design hotels, and we're seeing our members using our spaces and that network of other spaces to go pop in and take a meeting, because sometimes you need to take a private meeting, you need to get away. And also, to the point Tom was making, people have cabin fever. I think the realization of sitting at home because of the pandemic has made people realize that when they make those choices to leave the home, they want to make those choices in a way that they choose brands and experiences and spaces that connect with their identity and their personas. So I couldn't agree more, and that's why our relationship with hotels is really crucial to our overall membership experience and network.
How does design react to kind of this push towards more local traffic? Because I mean, I know in hotels, we weren't having this conversation all that long ago, and you'd see a new hotel go up, but it could seem like kind of a walled off property from its surrounding neighborhood. So, I mean, is design changing to accommodate this, or will it? Tom, I'll start with you. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, I thought Casper was going to join. We talked about this before, but that's part of what of the main drivers is really to understand what's unique about its place, its culture, and its history, and we'd like to build a story around that to make sure that it really creates something unique. So we believe this localization is extremely important to design and influence design, and even more so. Because I think when people go to a place, they not only want to be, taken care of and all that, but they also want to learn something new. And to your point, John, they want to be culturally. People are yearning for new experience, but they're yearning to learn and to do something new. And that could be shared by how we display that through our designs and through our work, to embracing something new that they may not know about its area, its local culture, history, particularly, in different parts of the States. But also, we do that when we go to a different country. We're just wanting to know what's going on and all of that. So if we can impart that, and you can see that in the design, and sometimes it's not about just hitting it in your face, but there's something about being in a place and know that you're in France, or that you're in Paris, whatever it is, or difference between whether you're in New York or whether you're in Chicago or whether you're in LA. You got to know that if you're in a space in LA, it's going to feel like outdoors. It's going to be, that vibe. So, I think this notion of just embracing that, and again, it doesn't have to hit in your face, but you have to feel it.
Definitely. And Casper, I mean, how is it changing for citizenM?
Now, actually, I really like the way that John is explaining what it does. I think that the sense of community that you have been able to build up is something that we want to also make central in the way citizenM is developing. And it is with a growing and also a scaling organization with so many new hotels that come in. As I said before, the challenge is how can you give a consistent concept and still be locally relevant, and for what kind of audience do you do it? Do you for the people that travel to you, or can you also find ways, because we got rooftop terraces. My window is getting a makeover, by the way. Rooftop terraces in New York, in Washington, that are great spaces also for local activities. And finding that perfect blend is what we're looking at today. I think I'm coming back to the same steps. First, look at the audience, then look at the proposition or the experience that you want to bring. Then look at how you can reach the target audience and make them aware of it. And that design is following that whole logic. So starting with the customer journey, what do we need? And in that sense, we are very proud of what we have achieved with our current hotels and the way we look, and we are very cautious about it. But we also realize that we need to evaluate, and also with the help of Tom, to keep on growing on that one.
Great. Real quick before I get to my last question, we have an audience question I want to ask John. On the point of personalization, if I'm going to a co-working space, it is relatively near my home, which is the most personalized space. So the question is, how does co-working personalization differentiate from my own home's personalization?
Well, I mean, there's only so many people you can interact with in your own home, right? So that's I think that's the key part of it, right? We've used the word community a lot. I actually think it's a very overused word from a brand marketing perspective, because it's become commoditized a little bit. I think when you're part of a membership-based community, you could make a decision to work at home or work in a cafe or work in a traditional office space, right? If you intentionally choose to work in a space like NeuHouse or any other sort of membership clubs that have workspace in them, you're intentionally choosing to be around other people. So you're kind of self-selecting the personalized experience you have with other people, even if you don't necessarily speak to those people. So I think that's one sort of crucial part of it for us. I think beyond that, it's we talked about hospitality. I think hospitality in the workspace is very unique. So, at home, you're going to be making yourself a meal at breakfast, lunch, and dinner time. At NeueHouse, we're going to be giving you a pretty world-class food and beverage experience. So that means reacting to the customers, their personal choices. We might make a dish that somebody wants to make a tweak to for themselves. So I think hospitality gives us that opportunity to differentiate from working in your home, however beautiful it might be, or however much sort of service you can bring into your home. And then I think our cultural programming and our social programming is where we do things we think are culturally relevant. Talking to Tom's point before, and localizing what we do. NeueHouse stands for Home of the New, right? So we have cultural programming directors who are always searching for what's new in the culture, whether it's locally or whether it's in the cultural zeitgeist. And then we're building programming to reflect that locale and what's happening in culture. So giving people a personalized opportunity to attend everything from a music performance to an art exhibition to a new DJ we may have unearthed who's going to come and perform. So it goes high-low, but I think the personal element is not being on your own; it's being around other people and doing that in a very intentional way.
Great, y'all. We have like 20 seconds, so I want to ask one last question, just to answer a couple of words each. Pardon the lightning round, but what are you most excited about next as we look to a decade of change ahead for hospitality? Tom, why don't you kick us off?
I'm sorry, the question again was?
What are you most excited about as we look to the next 10 years ahead? It seems like there's a lot of change on the horizon. So, I mean, is there something you're most anticipating eagerly?
I just think re-engagement with people and being socially connected again in the world. I think we're yearning for that personal connection. So I'm just excited about being able to return to life and be able to hug people again and just interact socially, and just goes to the heart of kind of what we're about as humans, is wanting to be connected and feeling that. And I think we're yearning for that. We missed it, and it's coming. But I'm looking for the day where where this is all behind us. I'm not wearing a mask every time I go, or that, and just really being able to really connect with others. And I'm excited about that, and hopefully that's going to be in our future.
Great. Casper, what about you? And John next, real quick.
What can I add to what Tom just said? It's absolutely beautiful. Let me just say, if we can continue finding this human touch and create a real sense of belonging, design and tech will help us doing it. And I think there's a world to win and a world to explore there. And thank you for this.
Wonderful. John, why don't you close us out?
I suppose two quick things. I say one, I think how arts and culture can really drive those connective experiences. I think I saw a statistic that spend on credit cards on arts and culture is now starting to outpace other types of experiences. I think that's really exciting for what we're doing at Culture Works with NeueHouse and Fotografiska. And then from a selfish perspective, it's our rollout. And we're opening 9 new venues in terms of new Fotografiskas, new NeueHouses, new venues, 3 new restaurants, 3 new bars. We're going to Shanghai, Berlin, Miami, Venice Beach, And so I'm looking to sort of export that cultural experience and take it all around the world. So my wife's not, but I am.
Wonderful. Sounds like a busy decade ahead. So thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thank
everybody.
you.